After years of speculation and cautious optimism, Dawn of War 4 is officially taking shape, and today we are learning some really cool details about Dawn of War 4 from a PC Gamer article that's just been published featuring this hugely anticipated game. Now, if what they are describing holds up, this isn't just another sequel. It's an ambitious attempt to restore the scale, brutality, and faction identity that made the series legendary, whilst of course modernizing it for today's real-time strategy game audience. Now let's break down the biggest updates. First, we've got scale. Dawn of War 4 is going big, really big. The developers at King Art Games are aiming to put a huge number of units on the screen at once, far beyond what previous games allowed without mods. There will be a 300 unit cap by default, and with the Orks in particular, that can translate into some absurd scenarios. In PC Gamer's preview, a quick calculation suggested that you could theoretically field 500 Bomb Squigs. Yes, that's right, 500. And guess what? It goes even further than that, because in Dawn of War 4, the Orks late game includes technologies that reduce the cost of certain units to 0. Let that sink in. As you progress into the late game, you can unlock technology that effectively removes the resource cost of some units entirely. Combined with their naturally low-cost infantry and momentum-based mechanics, this means that in the late stages of a match, the Orks can become a true green tide. You won't be just reinforcing losses, you'll be flooding the battlefield. The developers say that one of the defining memories of the original Dawn of War was that the battles felt epic and long. It wasn't about losing 3 squads and then calling it over, it was about constantly reinforcing, constantly committing resources, constantly asking yourself, is this battle worth winning if it costs me the war? And that philosophy is looking to come back. Reinforcements will be returning in a meaningful way. You can toggle auto-reinforce, but if you leave it on carelessly, you can tank your economy. You might end up with an elite, expensive blob that's hard to kill, but too costly to replace. The tension between scale and sustainability is a core design focus in Dawn of War 4, and that balance plays directly into the Orks' identity. The Orks in Dawn of War 4 revolve around building momentum through their WAR system. Fighting fills the WAR meter, even taking losses contributes to it through banners. As the meter builds, you unlock upgrades and stratagems, and your Orks become stronger in battle. Basic infantry also becomes even cheaper as the faction progresses, so you'll be encouraged to harass, to swarm, to pressure constantly, and then in the late game, with those zero-cost technologies kicking in, the Ork war machine can spiral into something terrifying. It's not just flavor, it's mechanical escalation. And here's another major shift, by the way. Orks can now build anywhere on the map. That will of course fundamentally change their strategic flexibility. Instead of being locked into a single base footprint, they can spread across the battlefield, sow their seeds, expanding aggressively and opportunistically. It of course reinforces the idea that Orks aren't planners, they are opportunistic conquerors who scrap build wherever they stomp. Veterancy matters also. As your boys survive in battles, they rank up. You'll be able to purchase veteran upgrades that increase their model count, making squads physically larger and stronger. But if those units do indeed die, rebuilding that veterancy will take time. So even in a faction built around overwhelming numbers, there is still meaningful decision making about what to preserve. The game will return to Kronos, of course, the iconic planet from Dark Crusade. However, it's now 50 years later and still drenched in war. Playable factions, as we know, will include the Space Marines, the Orks, the Necrons, and the Adeptus Mechanicus, with the Imperial Guard playing a narrative role in the conflict. As many of you will know, each faction will feature multiple heroes, or even sub-factions, with distinct playstyles and missions. The Adeptus Mechanicus campaign, for example, follows different heroes viewing the same events from different perspectives. It's not just repeating content, but it is reframing it. And then there is the tone of this new game. Dawn of War 4 is leaning hard into spectacle and brutality. One of the most iconic elements of the original Dawn of War was sync kills. Those cinematic finishes burned into everyone's memory. The Dreadnought impaling enemies, Gorguts smashing someone into the dirt, and King Art Games will be taking that further. They are layering in more interactive combat moments, more spectacle, more weight to melee clashes. Watching Squighog boys tear through a ranged squad isn't just tactical, it's meant to feel brutal and satisfying. At the same time though, the game is modernizing its controls. WASD camera movement is now built in and configurable. The retreat command returns, allowing you to pull units back to safety when they are overwhelmed, and there is an improved drag system that lets you multi-attack enemies by dragging with the right mouse button, streamlining large-scale engagements. Now, we have covered lots of this before, but what we haven't really talked much about is how the developers in this PC Gamer article have mentioned that you should be able to enjoy the game without being a super hardcore 40k lore expert. The factions are designed to feel authentic and distinct, but also accessible at the same time. So, what does this all add up to? Well, Dawn of War 4 appears to be aiming for something very bold. Massive battles, deep faction mechanics, meaningful escalation, and a return to what made the series feel epic in the first place. If the Ork late game tech truly allows zero-cost units, if the scale holds up, and if the balance between spectacle and strategy lands correctly, we could be looking at the most ambitious Dawn of War yet. And let's be honest, this series kind of has something to prove. Dawn of War 3 didn't really live up to expectations, it didn't really provide what people wanted, and since then, RTS as a genre hasn't exactly been thriving in the mainstream. So Dawn of War isn't just another sequel, it's a test, it's another crack at the whip, potentially an answer to the question of whether a classic RTS franchise can return in 2026 and remind people why large-scale, faction-driven warfare still matters. If King Art Games pulls this off, it's not necessarily just a win for Warhammer fans, it's a win for real-time strategy. War is brewing again on Cronus in a spectacular way. I hope you guys enjoyed today's brief update and coverage of the PC Gamer article, but if you did want to find out more about Dawn of War 4, well, the end card on your screen right now will take you to another video on the channel which YouTube believes you'll enjoy the most next. And if you've enjoyed this particular video, make sure that you give it a thumbs up, it really helps me out. Either way, take care, and see you next time.